Okay, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We're right at 8:30. You're going to go ahead and call the meeting to order here. Welcome to the Conscious Contact Speaker Group of Alcoholics Anonymous. My name is Brian, and I am an alcoholic. A couple quick announcements. We got our hoodies on display, stage left here. It is hoodie season, so if you're interested in purchasing a hoodie, you can see me, see Ron after the meeting. They are available at cost. What else? We got food and fellowship every week here, starting at 8 o'clock, so feel free to get here early. Enjoy the coffee, the refreshments we put out. If you do want to get involved in service with this group, could always use help setting up, breaking down the meeting. If you're interested in doing that, again, see a home group member after the meeting. And what else we got? We got a commitment that we do, speaking of service. We got a commitment we do every Sunday night in Quakertown. It's up at a treatment center there, so if you'd be interested in doing that, me and Ron go up there most weeks, and it's a really good time. They really appreciate us coming out there, so if you'd be interested in going up there, sharing 5 to 10 minutes of your time, your experience, you can see me, see Ron, see any home group member after the meeting. And with that, I'm going to turn the meeting over to the world's greatest chairperson, all the way from Louisiana. Please help me give a warm welcome to Kara.
Good evening, y'all. My name's Kara, and I'm a grateful recovering alcoholic. Welcome home. This is a 1-hour speaker meeting that meets every Saturday evening at St. Paul's Lutheran Church, 301 North Main Street, Doylestown, PA. Food and fellowship starts at 8 p.m. and speaker at 8:30 p.m. The business meeting for this group meets every Saturday at 7 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. right here. Please come early and join us. The purpose of this group is to provide a consistent message of hope and recovery through God reliance and service to others through the practice and teachings of the 12 steps. We record all speakers so that others may benefit from their message of recovery. If you wish not to be recorded, simply ask. This is an open meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. The group would like to welcome everyone, especially newcomers. Is there anyone new or from out of town that would like to introduce themselves with their first name? Please raise your hand. Woo, I love it. Up front row.
Hi, I'm Peggy from Southern California.
Woo! Hey, Peggy, welcome.
I'm Cheryl from Long Island, New York.
Hey, Cheryl, welcome.
Hi, I'm Sherry from Long Island, New York.
Hey, Sherry, welcome.
Hi, I'm Crystal from Long Island, New York.
Welcome, Crystal.
I'm Lauren from Lansdale, Pennsylvania.
Hey, Lauren, welcome.
First time at this meeting.
Welcome. Did I get everyone? Perfect. Welcome home, everyone. The Conscious Contact Speaker Group encourages sponsorship. With anyone with the working knowledge of the 12 steps and willing to sponsor, please raise your hands. Wonderful. Love it. Are there any announcements for the good of AA?
My name is Nick. I'm an alcoholic.
Hi, Nick.
October 25th in Percy at Virginia and Dill Street at St. Andrew's Church. There's a Halloween party. $10 at the door. There'll be 2 AA speakers, all kinds of food. If you want information, come see me after the meeting. I have a flyer for that.
Flyer will be on the Facebook group.
Okay, our flyer will be on the Conscious Contact Speaker Group if anybody wants to check that out. It's going to be a good time. Any other announcements?
And also, we have a Venmo and a QR code back there. Come see me and scan my phone. I'll be right back.
Thank you, Nick. Our sister group is a Big Book study meeting that meets every Thursday at 7:30 p.m. just up the street at Salem UCC Church, 186 East Court Street, Doylestown. Coffee is on at 6:15, and it's a wonderful Big Book study, guys, so I encourage all to come. We have meeting lists and big books on easy terms. Please see me or any home group member after the meeting. If you cannot afford a big book, the Conscious Contact Speaker Group will give you one at no charge. Anyone willing to make donations for the purpose of big books to help those who cannot afford them can put donations in the jar on the table marked Big Books and CD Donations. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel, the Conscious Contact Speaker Group of Doylestown, Pennsylvania, and our Facebook group. Subscribe and share. You can find our speakers there. Join our Facebook page to keep informed, and you can share upcoming events and meetings. Now I'd like to welcome a good friend of the Conscious Contact. Let's give Jason a warm welcome. He's going to come up and read Just for Today Prayer of Recovery. Woo!
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jason. I'm an alcoholic. Just for today, prayer of recovery. Just for today, I will be agreeable. I will look as well as I can, dress becomingly, talk low, and act courteous. Criticize not one bit, not find fault with anything, and not try to improve or regulate anyone except myself. Thank you.
My name's Nick. I'm an alcoholic, also known as alcoholic. Okay, welcome home, everybody. I'm going to read the AA preamble for you, so I find it. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength, and hope with each other that may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. And AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organization, or institution, does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. And now, I'd like to bring Brian up here to read the 12 Steps to Recovery. Let's give Brian a nice warm welcome. Woo!
Good evening again, everybody. My name is Brian. I'm an alcoholic. And these are the 12 steps of recovery. 1, we admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. 2, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. 3, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him. 4, made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. 5, admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. 6, we're entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. 7, humbly asked Him to remove our shortcomings. 8, made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. 9, made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. 10, continued to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. 11, sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood Him, praying only for knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out. And 12, having had a spiritual awakening as the result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all of our affairs. And with that, I'm going to turn the meeting back over to Kara. She's going to come up here and introduce our speaker for tonight. Thank you.
Our 7th tradition states, every group ought to be fully self-supporting, declining outside contributions. At this time, I would like to pass the basket. We have no dues or fees, but we have expenses. This group provides many services. Your donations cover food, rent, big book CDs, events, and workshops, etc. There is absolutely no smoking on church property. Please take a moment to silence all cell phones and limit movement during the meeting to avoid distractions. Now, I'd like to introduce the speaker as a good friend of the Conscious Contact Speaker Group. Let's give Debbie P. a warm welcome. She came all the way from Long Island, New York. Woo!
Okay, my name's Debbie, and I am definitely an alcoholic. The first thing I can say is that Doylestown is definitely not a glum lot. We came here, what a warm welcome. I like to start off by saying this is my experience. We're a very diverse group of dented cans in AA, and when I go to a meeting and I hear somebody from the podium or sitting in the chair, well, if they're sitting, right away I judge them. Why are you sitting down? This is AA, stand up and be respectful, right? But I'm always like, sometimes people say, oh, you know, I barely made it through college and I almost lost my home. That's not my story. I come from a, you know, good family. I had a great childhood. My first drink was at 18 months old. This is verified through my mother. I guess I woke up on New Year's Eve and I walked around the table and I drank what was ever left over of the drinks, and my mother couldn't figure out why I didn't get up the next day, and when I did get up, I was like a raving lunatic. So that's how it started for me. But in my childhood, I come from a family of alcoholics, and I didn't know that, and, you know, I had a great time. I did what I want, when I wanted. Nobody was watching me, and I was, you know, just in the wind. When I was 11 years old, I told my mother I wanted to be just like my Nana, and she was a bartender. So I grew up drinking Shirley Temples, eating Slim Jims, and playing shuffleboard in the bar. And, you know, that's just how it was for me. I did not know for a very long time that I was sick. I drank at a young age. I can remember being like 3rd grade, going into 4th grade, standing in front of the deli, and an adult would actually buy beer for us and give it to us. This was the 70s. It was wild. And, you know, no consequences or anything. I don't even know. You know, we would drink a few beers and hide cigarettes in our socks. And I guess it wasn't until I was in high school, and, you know, we would have like ladies' night back in the day, you know, $3 cover charge and drink free all night. And I would go with a group of girls from school, and we were like, you know, 15. Back in the day, you didn't have the little picture ID. You had a paper, and you scraped off the date, and you wrote a fake date on there. And I didn't know, like, you know, when we would leave, most people would go home, but I would find the people that were going to continue to drink, and I wouldn't go home. And I would go straight to school the next day. And we didn't have cell phones back then, so like my poor mother, right? I didn't care. And, you know, when I first started coming around, I would read these 12 steps, and I was like, oh, I don't have any character defects, you know? It wasn't until I really got into the process that I realized, wow, I was like so self-centered. I didn't care about anybody. When I put a drink in my body, I did not know that I wasn't going to be able to stop. I like to say sometimes, like in those teenage years, you know, it would be Christmas Eve, and we'd be like, oh, we're going to go to midnight mass, you know, and that was a lie. You know, we didn't go to midnight mass, we drank, and then I would ruin Christmas because I would be too hungover, and this would be the story of my life. I never kept a job if they wanted me to come in on Saturdays, because I could not miss the bar on Friday night. I couldn't imagine not going to the bar on a Friday night, and that was from like 16 to 23. I had to be at a bar, and usually it was the same bar for a long time, and they would be like, you know, you're a great worker and you got to come to work on Saturday. And I'd be like, okay. And I would be like, I got to go to work Saturday. I really love this job. I got to keep this job. And I would go out and I'd start drinking. And I'd be like, oh, 11 o'clock, I should go home. I'll have one more. 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock. And then I'm like, fuck it, I might as well stay up all night. And, you know, and that's just how my life revolved, right? I guess it was in like 1988, I got a job at the post office. So my family was like, yeah, she's arrived, a career job, you know, and yeah, that didn't last long. I definitely respect Alcoholics Anonymous. My alcoholism has a drug addiction, stuff that made me drink a little more. I could stay alert. I loved it. And I would, once again, so I worked the 3 to 11 shift, and you know, everybody would go out, 11 o'clock, you work the 3 to 11, everybody goes to the little neighborhood bar, and I'm like, yeah, I'm going too, and, you know, they'd go home, and not me, I'd pull in the parking lot the next day trying to go to work, because I stayed up all night and stayed out, and That would be when I went to my first rehab, when I worked for the post office. I went to my manager and I said, well, at the time I also worked in the psych hospital as dietary, so I had 2 jobs. And I was drinking and doing other stuff, and I was like, my life is a mess, I need to save this post office job. So I quit the psych hospital job, and I went to my manager, I said, I think I have a problem with alcohol, and I went to the EAP, and they sent me to the psych hospital where I used to work in dietary. And I ended up over there, and I know nothing. I don't know what I learned there. They told me that I should go to a meeting when I got out, and I did go to a meeting, and then I went to the bar. And this was my story, and that was in 1988, and in 1989 I went to prison for the very first time. I was 25 years old, and I always think like my family, what I did to my family, right? So when I started, I didn't go directly to prison. I had a few little county, 30 days, 2 weeks, getting in trouble, and whenever I landed in jail, I'd be like, I miss my family, like, my Nana, my favorite person, and then I would get out, and 3 days later I'd be back at it, and I was like, I don't even know what's going on. I couldn't imagine my life without drinking. So I ended up going to prison, and remember when I said I didn't think I had any character defects, and my mom and dad would drive 9 hours to prison and stay over in a hotel, and we weren't a rich family, that's a lot to go away 9 hours and stay in a hotel. And I asked my mom, I don't remember the logistics, but I believe I asked her for a brown shirt, and she brought a purple shirt. And I told this woman about herself in the visiting room like a real spoiled, self-centered POS. But once again, I did not know that I was sick. I did 18 months in prison, came home, 2 weeks later, I was back at it again. So I'll tell you, the 90s were a big blur. I was incarcerated more than I was free in the 90s. Couple little maybe AA stuff, not much. I started being a traveling alcoholic, got in trouble in Georgia, got in trouble in Florida. People will be like, well, what year was that? I'm like, I don't know, let me check my rap sheet, because I don't even know where I was and what year. And I still think back, like I'm 27, I'm 28 years old, I'm in the wind, I'm in Florida, I'm homeless, I'm running the streets, I'm going to jail. My poor family, right? My Nana would always pick up the phone and she'd be like, oh, honey, are you okay? Can I send you some money? And I'm like, yes. So I did that back and forth, back and forth. I'm telling you, if things got too heated for me in New York, I'd run to Florida. Then I would go to jail there. Things got too heated, I would come back. And by the way, I also got extradited on the prison bus to Florida, and then I got extradited from Florida, New York. But New York, they fly you back. They like to spend their money. So that just gives you like a little, story of how sick and suffering. My first meeting was in 1988, and my last debacle with alcohol was November 20th, 2013. So that's a long stretch of suffering that I gave myself. But in the 90s, I was coming around AA loitering. I didn't know what you people were doing here, and nobody was telling me what you were doing here. And I went to prison again in 1999, and when I came home, I had a baby. I had a baby, then I went to prison, and I came home, and I got a sponsor, first time ever. Got a sponsor. She had a baby my age. She had a little bit of a similar story to me, drank and ran in the same neighborhoods, and we got close, and I got a home group, and I got a commitment, and I said to her one day, like, what about this 12-step stuff? What is that all about? And she said, write an autobiography. Nobody ever told her, so I don't fault her. So I wrote an autobiography, right? Read it to her, whatever. Something must have happened off on another debacle, You know, it was just, that was my life. And I did not know that I was powerless over alcohol. I had no idea. I had no idea that I was going to drink even if I didn't want to. You know, the whole, I miss my family. Oh, I miss my family, and I would be devastated. I had a one-year-old daughter who was my pride and joy. We slept together. I would come home, we moved in with my parents, and I would come home from work and I'd take her out of her crib and I would sleep with her, yet I could not pick up a drink. I remember I was working at this little restaurant bar in the neighborhood. It was on the water, it was busy, and I was making money. And the thought came that I would have a nice Long Island iced tea after my shift one night, and I had sober time. And yeah, that set me off. I like to say it turned my switch on. And then I couldn't turn it off again, and I probably went back to jail. I can't even tell you. You know, a lot of things people talk about, you know, the committee in my head. I went through my whole life with like all this squirrely stuff going on. And I like to say, you know, I went through the 12 steps and it kind of quieted down the committee. But I have Herman, who's still in here. And I kind of have him locked in the closet. But when I wake up in the morning, Herman's like, you don't want to go to work today, Debbie. And I'm like, Herman, shut up. And I go on and I do my morning deal, which is, you know, my conscious contact with a higher power. If I don't have a God in my life, I don't stay sober by myself. You know, it's for me. And what I really love too about Alcoholics Anonymous is that it's a God of your understanding, and they make that perfectly clear. Like, you know, we come from Christian roots, the Oxford group and all that, but they opened the door because everybody deserves a chance to be sober. And I'm not going to stand up here and say I love everybody, because I don't. But guess what? Even if I don't like your behaviors, because that's what it is, right? It's our behaviors and our attitudes, I'm still going to reach my hand out to help, because that's what I'm told to do. So moving right along, I guess it was, I think, 2007, and I was in Florida again. And I was living down there with this girl, her son. We had been friends for many years, and you know, we were drinking and using. I like to say we were hiding in the walk-in closet so her son couldn't find us. And one day I woke up and I was like, I gotta stop this. And I knew somebody that I had met while I was incarcerated, which I don't remember what year that was, sorry. And I hooked up with her because I was one of those people that I loved you. It didn't matter if you were a male or a female. If you loved me, I loved you back. And I couldn't live without you until you got incarcerated. Then I'd move along to the next, because I didn't know that I couldn't love anybody. And if you would have told me, I would be like, I will die without this person. I was so sick inside. And I would latch on to somebody else. And it was an awful way to live. So I was in Florida, and I knew this person was sober because she used to call me up on the telephone and say, you should open up the book to page 63, and you should, and I'd be like, will you leave me alone? So she's the person I thought about when I was down there. And this was, you know, I don't even remember if there were cell phones. If there was a cell phone, I didn't have one. But I called information. You remember that? 411. And I got her number. And I called. And I'm like leaving her a voicemail. Oh, hey, it's Debbie. And she picks the phone up. Where the hell are you at? Where you been? How'd you get my phone number? And I said, information. She goes, it's not listed. I said, well, I don't know then. But she flew me out there that day. And I went out to San Francisco. And, you know, she was hanging around these big book thumpers. No idea who they were, what they were, but I was just along for the ride. I felt like, thank you, God, that I'm not sitting in a walk-in closet today. And somebody actually took the time to read this book with me. And I am not a person that can tell you, I said page 63 for the third step prayer because that's the only thing I can remember. But when I read this book, and in here it says, for reasons yet obscure, the alcoholic has lost, when I read the part that I had no defense against the first drink, it was like, holy good God, I'm not a loser. I'm an alcoholic. Because I didn't know that. By that time, I had soiled every relationship, killed my parents, left my kid, and I thought I was the biggest POS in the world. And it was so hard to get past that when I read that, I felt a bit of relief, like, oh my God, I'm not, because for our families, right? People take it personal. Why do you keep doing this to me? And I remember going, I'm the one in jail, what are you talking about? I ain't doing shit. Yeah, I'm the one locked up. Me. Because I didn't know. I didn't know how any of this worked, but I'm out there, I do this stuff, and I'm like, wow. I picked up Pass It On, Dr. Bob and the Good Old Timers. I was like, this is a miracle. What is going on here? And that's how I felt. I want to say, growing, right? Growing in the program. Probably in 2007, I wouldn't have been able to stand up here and talk about God. Right? I know for a fact in 1998 and 1999, while I was incarcerated over there reading the Bible because there's nothing else to do, I wouldn't be able to talk about it out loud. I would not have been able to get on my knees with my sponsees on the side of the bed and read the third step prayer. So it's like a growing process, and this I didn't know. So in 2007, I'm going a little slow because I'm watching the time, right? I'm like, what are you going to do if I don't make it for the 52 minutes? Kick me out of AA? No. So I'm out there and I'm doing good and I'm like, this is really great, and I'm trying to get a job out in San Francisco, and it's not happening for me. And I was like, well, maybe my message is to go back home, I should go back home. Anyway, they tell me, get hooked up with this primary purpose group in Bohemia. They got a big book study over there, and I went over there, and I heard this message of depth and weight. And I was like, this is great, I love this, I'm on fire for this stuff. I pick up the girls in the sober house because I got a job. Always, I like to, I waited tables, so wherever I went, I get that fast money, I'm able to get a job and a car, and, picking up the girls in the sober house, I get a sponsee, I start reading the book with her. Well, actually, I didn't read the book with her. Back then, it was qualify, a belief in a higher power, and let's get on the fourth step. That's how I was taught back in the day. Now, I read the book with people. I recently had 3 people reading the same chapter 3 times a week, but I still can't tell you if Jim was the car salesman or was it Fred or, I can't remember. I do know that one of them, there wasn't a cloud on the horizon and he drank, and the other one had a little shot of whiskey in his milk because he thought it'd be a good idea, right? But I have a tattoo sleeve of Nemo and all the dysfunctional fish, and we got to keep swimming. But most importantly, is Dory, because that's where I'm at right now. I just forgot what I was going to say. So, yeah. In San Francisco, come back, doing everything good, and now I only had maybe 4 months sober, right? And people started saying, how are you sponsoring somebody and you only have 4 months sober? And I'm like, I don't know, people are telling me that's what I'm supposed to do. And I lived in a sober house out there, and it was a co-ed sober house, and my baby daddy came home from prison, and he moved in the sober house. Yeah, so, that didn't last long. Then we moved out, and we got, whatever, long story. Off on another debacle I went. And I told you I like, other substances in my life, and I remember sitting in the hotel and I'm drinking and ain't got no money left, and my family's probably looking for me because here I go, take off again, what is going on? And I was like, oh, I got the treasury money in my trunk from my group. I had to come back and make amends to them at one time, which I did. So I went off on another debacle, and I want to say that was probably, I went to prison, I know that. I did 24 months in prison, and I cut the ties with that guy. I was like, listen, nobody is to blame for my alcoholism, but I know one thing. So I'm about almost 12 years sober, and I'm happily single because I still wouldn't know how to be in a relationship. And I'm afraid of them because that was always what would take me out, right? How many of us stay in a toxic relationship instead of being alone? Right? It's just crazy. So that was my story anyway. Let's go on to my last debacle. November 20th, 2013. Robbed the local Home Depot store. Crashed through a plate glass window in a dancing school, and thank God it was a Sunday. Ladies back there are like, yes, I was the person that drank and went to the local 7-Eleven or gas station and waited for you to get out of your car so I could take it and use your credit cards. I stole a pocketbook in Florida, and they had World Disney tickets. They were from California. I stole it in Florida, so I ruined their whole vacation. These are things that I have to make living amends for because I didn't care. And it was awful, and I lived a horrible life. My last debacle, getting robbed a local Home Depot and whatever, driving down the road, the bumper's gone, left it at the scene, and smoke's flying out of the radiator, and I see the cops coming this way with their lights are on, and we're going that way, and then they, make a U-ey, whatever. It's my last debacle. I'm laying in the cell. And I always share this. I'm sitting there and I'm like, how did this happen to me again? Because I've had sobriety. And God, who I didn't see, but I heard, you're not getting step one. And I'm like, what? And guys, it dawned on me. I would come in and be like, oh yeah, I'm powerless, my life's unmanageable, give me a God to handle my show. And Herman would be like, well, Deb, how about if we don't drink? How about if we find some just crack, then you're too scared to come outside? Or how about some heroin? Stay away from the alcohol, Deb, because that's what gets you in trouble. And I would believe Herman. But if I am powerless, lack of power, that's my dilemma. I just couldn't get that. So I go and do my little county year, start going to AA, start praying every day. And this is where, my life just changed. People go, what was different for you this time? I don't know. Step one. I left that jail via police to New Jersey because I was a traveling alkie, whatever. And I got in trouble in Jersey, so I was out Jersey. I was in a loaner car and I got arrested. They impounded the loaner. Oh, my life was a mess. I had to get back to Long Island, but that was a whole nother story. So they took me over to Jersey and I'm in solitary confinement and I'm thinking, wow, how is this gonna work out for me now? And 23-hour lock, couldn't get out, none of my property with me. And I would just pray and read the Bible again because it's the only book I had. And I went to court and they gave me probation. And and they let me out. This is so crazy because I don't have a story that I just tell. I never know what's going to come out. I haven't told this story in a long time. So I get out of Jersey, and they give me a check. I had like $65, and they give you a little armband picture. And where do you think you cash your check at? The local liquor store. I got out of there, and I literally got on my knees and kissed the dirty ground. And I was like, I am so sick of this. I cannot ever do this again. And as I was going to cash my check, Herman said, nobody will know, Deb. And I said, Herman, shut up, because I'll know. I got me a peach Snapple iced tea, cashed my check, got on the bus, made it back to New York. I was going to a shelter. My mom and daughter met me at the train station to drive me the rest of the way, and my daughter got out of that car. Now she was 15 years old, and her mother had been in and out and in and out, and you know, she didn't understand it until she had her own battle. My daughter got out of the car, hugged me. It was very emotional, whatever. I hit the ground running. I went to a meeting the next day. This lady that when I was incarcerated, I met this lady. She was in there doing some parenting program or something, and the way she talked, I said, are you a friend of Bill? And she said, I am, Deborah. So she picked me up from the shelter and brought me over to this, I always make fun, like, you know, I'm from a middle-class neighborhood, and she brought me over to this place, we call it the Barn, and I went in there with like jail slides, scarf on my head. I'm not the person I was 11 years ago when I got incarcerated, believe me. I didn't even know how to dress. So I went over there with my scarf on and my orange slides, and you know, the ladies in the meetings, they pass the meeting list, and I always say those ladies are like, yeah, I'm not picking her up, you know. I ain't giving her a ride. But there was somebody that did start picking me up, giving me a ride, and little by slowly, guys, I started going to meetings. I, got back with my sponsor. I know it's not AA approved, guys. I love 12-step workshops. I find them to be very spiritual. I just got into the book, and I guess my biggest thing was I was living in a shelter, and you get chores, and my chore was to sweep and mop the hallway. So I did it before bed, and then I had to do it in the morning, and I'd say, nobody walked on the floor. It don't make sense, but guess what? I did it anyway, because I was grateful, and I think that was a big deal for me, remaining grateful. I had this bathrobe that has little palm trees on it, right? I didn't have anything. I had a plastic bag of jail stuff. And I went to a thrift store, and I was telling the lady, these are little God winks for me. I was telling the lady, the only thing I need now is a bathrobe because, it's a shelter. You got to walk back and forth to the shower. She goes, let's go to the closet and see what we got. There was one bathrobe, and I have it still. I still have my orange slides. I need a reminder sometimes of what I don't want to do and what I do want to do. Okay, so I'm in the shelter. Some ladies talk me into going back to school. This is where my message of hope comes from. I got out of jail in August. September I started school. And in October I got a job at the local diner. And I did that for 3 years. I worked, I got up, I went to the 6:45 meeting, went to work, went to school. By January, I had saved a little money. I was going to get a loan to get a little whatever car on the road. And, my dad lent me the money. And then by April, the shelter, I found this marvelous little place. It was $850. It was a little studio. The place that I was at paid the first month's rent and the first month's security. They bought me a bed. Like, these were the things that started happening to me. So this doesn't sound like this big, great things that happened, but if you have ever been homeless with nothing in August, and then in April, you already got a car and a studio, you doing things, right? Doesn't sound like much now, but back then it was like, woo-hoo. So anyway, I go through that, I go through school, and I end up, people were telling me, well, back in prison, in 1990, I went to this thing called ASAT. It was alcohol, substance abuse. We had to do it, and we had these guys, and they would run groups, and I was like, oh, I want to do that. Like, that seems so cool, And I said, well, let me go. Oh, it's another God moment. I was at the local library because I didn't have nothing to do. I lived in a shelter. I didn't have a car. Walk to the library, go on there, figure out what am I going to do with my life. And the thing popped up. You know how you have those pop-ups? And it said one-day enrollment, St. Joseph's College, which was right in our area. Took a bus over there, met the ladies in admissions. I wanted to go for my KSAC. And they talked me into going for a bachelor's degree in human service. And I'm like, what? Like, I haven't been to school. I got some credits from, I've been to prison 3 times, and 2 of those times I went to college. So I had a couple of credits and whatever. I was just going with the flow, guys. I'm telling you, my reliance on God was building. I was going, and I just started doing it. So I get an interview, local treatment center, and the guys are retired NYPD. And I'm like, oh, how am I going to go here? And it was for an internship. Oh, I didn't know how to dress. I was like, I would only wear hoodies, Timberlands, like that's it, from Uptown. Now I moved up to Yeezys, So I go out there, I get a little job, a little intern, I get my little name badge, and I'm sit back there. We all go in the group in the morning, and I'm just standing there, and I'm nervous. I'm like the imposter. They're going to figure me out. And some guy goes, Alpine. And I'm like, that's what they used to call me in the hood. And I was like, I can't believe this is happening to me. And I'm like, my name's Deborah. But that would have set the tone for me. So, like, I work in a treatment center now, and it's a bottom of the barrel treatment center. Sorry to say, like, you can ring the doorbell, you don't have to have insurance, we let you in, and that's my favorite part about it. And I tell the people, like, when I got to do these assessments and all this stuff, I go, listen, this is what I got to do. I have a license to do this. I don't care about these stupid questions I'm asking you. This is how I get my paycheck. But I'm going to tell you how to get sober, and it's through Alcoholics Anonymous. That's what works for me. It's these 12 steps. It's God. I tell them about Herman. Everybody's got a Herman. All my friends now are like, hey, I got Oscar and Chucky over here. And, it's like we have a disease of the mind. And so many times tells us, right, that we don't have a disease of the mind. So go to school, treatment center, working, building my relationship with God. Treatment center, I'm helping others. This is where Herman started to tip in with me. And I was out there working. I ended up, my daughter graduated college. Well, I had to do her work her last semester. Enabling, I need Al-Anon. I did that for my mother because she had to get that degree. My mother was crazy about, you gotta get a degree. Like, okay, Mom. So she wanted to live with me, so here goes another God thing. I'm like, okay, I gotta find a place, rent, security, whatever. I wake up to a text from one of my coworkers at the diner. She said, hey, my friend, he was buying a house and it went really quick and he needs to sublease his apartment. Are you interested? For $275, I moved in. Right? Me and my daughter and her boyfriend at the time, who we won't talk about him, they moved in with me. My daughter, she smoked weed or whatever. I didn't enjoy their lifestyle. Somebody told me that my daughter was doing pills, and I said, you're a liar. Who told you that? And I didn't believe it. Whatever. I was moving away from Alcoholics Anonymous. So 2 people came up to me and they said, oh, there's this nice sober house and you should become the manager because you would be really good at it. And I was like, I'm not going to nobody's sober house. Did you hear my story? I lived in prison dorms and everything my whole life. I'm not living with a bunch of women. Somebody else came and told me that. And I said, really, God? So I had a resume, I never had a resume in my life. Now I had a resume. I didn't have to fill in the gaps. When you go, you start to write out the application, like, damn, where am I going to say I was for 3 years? I'll make this up, So I sent in a resume, and the woman tells me to this day, I went into the interview and I said, I don't even know why I'm here. I don't even think I want this job. And by the end of the interview, so the organization I'm affiliated with is a 12-step based abstinence house. And, we were just talking AA, and I started crying, and I said, I think I need this job more than you need me. And I moved into that sober house. And thank you, God, that I did that. It was the best thing I ever did, because within a month, the apartment got raided. My daughter was on pills. I was blinded to the fact, and whatever, that's a whole nother story. That's her journey. She's good now. We're great. But the point is, God saw what was going to happen. And I was already 1 foot out of AA. And he said, let's get you over here, back in solid. Otherwise, I probably would have been getting high with my kid. I don't know what would have happened. Anyway, so sober house, here I am. Now I'm, whatever, living life, diner, working. When does this go, till 9:30? Okay. So I'm trying to think of, Dory's acting up again. I got Herman and Dory. I mean, God, come on. I prayed in the bathroom. Help me out here. So anyway, so I'm at the sober house, and I'm still there today. It's a love-hate relationship, but I have to be honest, the growth, I am so connected to acceptance that I was not. When I first got there, first of all, I was nervous, I was worried, am I going to be able to do this job right? Now, I just told you guys about my history, right? Homeless, in the streets, I'm in jail. Now I'm in this house where I have to be intrusive to other people's lanes. Like I have to knock and open the door and see if they're home. Very, very uncomfortable for me then. Now I'm just like, yo, what are you doing? But in the beginning, it was like hard. If somebody didn't do their chore, I was like, what are you doing? And now it's like, I see stuff in the sink and I'm like, oh, who cares? They didn't come here to learn how to clean. They came here to get a foundation of 12 steps and live their life. And I heard, in Vegas, practice these principles in all your affairs or change your affairs. And I worked at that diner for a very long time. And it was very hard for me in the beginning. I didn't have a conscious contact with God. I just got out of jail. There was somebody there that was a manager. And I remember being in the kitchen and I was on my phone. And she was like, if I see that phone again, I'm going to take it. I was like, what? Well, let me know how that works out for you, honey. And I remember my boss yelled at me, and I was like, not very nicely, but it's still a joke at the diner. I'll be like, I'll stab somebody in the neck for talking to me like that. And I walked out the door, and the other lady was like, come back, he was just mad, it'll be okay. And I'm smoking my cigarettes, and I go back, and then he goes, get out of my restaurant, and I go, fine, but the last time, I think it was June, he got a little loud with me, and I said, what is your problem? And I finished my tables, and I left. So what a difference. I always say, I judge my spirituality on how I behaved at the diner. It's a very busy diner. I love it. I'm going back. We're not perfect, right? Nobody's perfect. I'm grateful that I have a reliance on God. And I'm probably going to end with my little God story. I have so many God stories. Guys, I was incarcerated in New York, and I was on felony probation in Florida. So anybody here ever been incarcerated? Or am I just talking to people that they're like, oh my God. So I'm up there and I got felony probation in Florida, and I'm in New York prison, and I'm like, please God, I'll be good. Please God, I'll be good. I make my parole board. They hold me over in Valhalla County Jail, and I'm like, please God, knowing damn well that if you're on felony probation in Florida and you commit a felony in New York, you're going directly up the road, is what they call it down there. And I get down there, I take the bus, it's 4 days and 3 nights and handcuffed and shackled. It's disgusting. I'm fighting with some girl in the mountains of Pennsylvania somewhere because we stopped at a few county jails. And we get down there to central booking, and they call me out of my cell. And they're like, come here and sign this warrant paper. And it was, big piece of paper. And I want to say it was like VOP, no bond, written, big black letters. And it was crossed out. And on the bottom it said $100 bail. And I was like, Mom, you got it. Give me. I knew somebody down there. So whatever, I get out and I start staying with this girl. And I end up going to the Salvation Army, getting a job. I still had to go back to jail and do my time, but point being, the judge was like, how did you get out of jail? And I'm like, God, no other explanation for it, right? So I work in this treatment center now. I get a new boss who's probably gonna listen to this damn video, this tape. But she came in there, and alcoholics don't like change, and I'm like, what is she? She don't know what she does. I don't like the way she does that, this and that. Me, hot second in the field, and she's got probably 20 years in the field, but I don't like the way she does stuff. So I go out and I start going on interviews and stuff, and I'm like, oh, maybe I'll work over here or there or whatever. And I'm at the diner on a Sunday morning. And I'm in the kitchen with my boss, the one who yelled at me. No. And I was like rubbing my hips. And I'm like, oh, I'm getting old. I'm rubbing my hips. And he's like, what's wrong? I go, I don't know. My hips hurt. And I go, you know what? This might be a message from God. And he goes, what are you talking about? I was like, well, I've been trying to get a new job, and I'm thinking God might be saying, you better keep that job. With your good health insurance, you're going to need new hips. And I said, God really should write me a letter. Sometimes there's too many shenanigans going on. And I went out to my table, guys, this is a true story. And I went to pick up my tip, and on my table was a napkin. And on the napkin it said, you are the one God sees. He will fix it all. And I put that napkin in a frame. Well, first I took that napkin in the kitchen and I said, look. And he goes, what is that? I go, didn't I just ask for a letter from God? And he goes, oh my God, you can't even make this up. And I'm like, I'm going to be known as the old crazy lady in AA that carries around the letter from God. But I'm telling you, my life is beyond my wildest dreams, and it doesn't mean because I drive the fanciest dream car, I don't have a mansion. It means that every single day when Herman wakes up with me, I practice the 11th step and I get a conscious contact with my higher power. And that doesn't mean that I don't curse or gossip or judge. It means that I work on being a better person. And, some people have been, like they'll go through the work with somebody and they'll be like, oh, Deb, mostly it's young people that move out of my sober house and never want to see me again. A year later, they're like, do you think you could sponsor me? And I'm like, let's dive into step 6 and 7, right? The other night I spoke and I want to say step 1, that's the meat and potatoes. 6 and 7, the meat. This whole thing is meat and potatoes. And it doesn't say in how it works. Rarely have we seen a person Rarely have we seen a person fail that's perfectly done this. It doesn't have to be perfect. For me, somebody asked me to sponsor them, I say absolutely, which, you know, I went dry for like 8 or 9 months, then I had 6 people, it was a lot. And then God takes care of it. I heard this lady at a convention say, I'm supposed to say yes, God will figure out the rest, and I go for that. Yep, I forgot what I was gonna say again. Dory took over. I don't know. Conscious contact, helping others. I tell my sponsees, listen, we're gonna read this book. I'm gonna say, hey, this is important, this is Ebby Thatcher, this is that. I'm gonna give you a little history. We're gonna go through it. You know, this is about a connection to a God that you can understand. If you don't believe in God, borrow mine. You know, it doesn't matter. You can't run the show anymore. And the only thing I'm going to tell you is once you get done with this, you must say yes to somebody else. Because I still get, like somebody says, oh, can you sponsor me? I'll be like, oh no, I don't know anything. I don't have to know anything. This is a program that's based in principles, right? Honest, faithful, whatever, I don't know. They're all in my book. I can't remember anything. Don't hold it against me. I'm so honored to be a part of Alcoholics Anonymous. My life, I go on so many vacations, and now what it's narrowed down to, oh, I'm gonna go to Myrtle Beach, there's a convention there. I go to Vegas, there's a convention there. I'm like a deadhead for AA. I just follow the conventions wherever they go, right? Because I never can learn enough. I heard this guy, I'm gonna finish with this. I heard this guy tell this story in Vegas, and he was like, he was so miserable, guilt, shame-ridden, and he was standing on a dock, and he just wanted to jump in the water and kill himself, and he didn't know what to do, and then he heard a voice say, well, just take a step off the dock. Take a step off the dock. And he's like, what are you talking about? Just trust. Take a step off the dock. And he stepped off the dock, and he got in. There was a boat there. And then the voice was like, pick up the oars. They're on the floor. Now there's nothing there. And he's feeling around, and he finds oars, and he starts rowing. And this nice wooden crafty boat appears, and he's like, oh my God, this is great. You know, I gotta trust. And he kept rowing. And then he was like, I don't want to row anymore. And he stopped. And the boat disappeared, and he sunk. So even when I don't want to do this, I do it anyway. Thank you for having me.
All right, again. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name's Brian. I'm still an alcoholic. The group would like to thank Debbie for coming out here tonight, sharing an incredible message of hope and recovery with the group here. Couple quick announcements again. As I said, we got food and fellowship every week. Show up here early, join us, socialize. You know what I mean? That's what it's all for. If you want to get involved with service work, if you want to help us put away the chairs after the meeting, we could always use some help with that. We'll leave those chairs in the back on the tables there, and the ones on the floor here we'll put away. It is customary for us to thank our speakers as they come here on their own time and expense. So usually we do form a line in the front here, and we thank our speakers on a personal level if you care to do so. I want to thank everybody for helping out with the meeting tonight. Thanks to our greeters, our readers, and most importantly, let's thank our speaker, Debbie, one more time. And if you do care to join us, we have a beautiful way of closing down the meeting. We are going to circle up and close with our Lord's Prayer. And we will close down, if you care to join us, with a brief moment of silence for the still sick and suffering alcoholic inside and outside of these rooms, followed by our Lord's Prayer. Our Father,